3 things to help those impossible conversations actually happen. Many times we have conversations in life that we'll think about almost our entire life. I'm a life coach. I work with people all the time, and some things that come up is conversations they wish they had 20 or 30 years ago. And I want to help the world transcend into a state of transparency and communication. The first thing is realizing that the conversation you want to have, that you feel that you know that you need to have, is going to help the other person just as much as it's going to help you. Number 2, speak from your heart. You can never go wrong. The heart is going to transcend all the lower nature shame and guilt into light. The third thing is don't take it so seriously. It's a beautiful process, and enjoy the ride, and you're going to learn so much about yourself. Having those tough conversations that we know that we want to have with people that we know is going to bring us freedom in life, they can be challenging and very difficult and confusing. I had a really good friend of mine reach out to me and say, hey, could you dive into, a little bit more about having these difficult conversations? And absolutely, that's what this video is about. Some things that I have learned that will help you, or I hope to help you, in having these difficult conversations. A lot of times they can be the people that are close to us. Family, friends, co-workers, things like that, because our energy bubble is like the closest to them, so we can feel the resonance from them the most. And having conversations with them feels like a mountain that we are just going to climb endlessly over. Good news. If there's one thing that I promise in having these conversations, is that having the conversation when you're said and done is so much easier than you ever would have thought in your mind. And suppressing the energy that it takes to the knowing and the desire to have this conversation takes so much more out of you than actually having it. So let me start with a few things that may help you get ready to have this conversation, whether it would be over the phone or whether it would be face-to-face, or it might be even a letter. But I do encourage you to be as authentic and forefront and as in-person as possible. The world today is connected through Zoom. We got the phone. They're 2 very personal ways. I'm a coach, and I can connect very deeply with people over the phone. But when it comes to having these difficult conversations, if the face-to-face is possible, I really encourage you to give it a try. Second best is the phone. And there is letters, too. The letters are extremely important in the facet that if you need to just express yourself, and it's not so much needed to get feedback back. But the conversational aspect doesn't happen in the letter, which is why the phone and the in-person are my first 2 choices when cracking that energy gunk inside of us that we know that we just need to let out. So, how do we do it, Mike? We got all these conversations that we want to have, and you keep talking about it, but how do we do it, right? So the first thing is imagine yourself from an outside perspective, like if there was a camera watching you have the conversation. Okay? This will allow you to distance yourself just a little bit so you don't feel like a deer in headlights when you're actually speaking to whoever it is that you want to speak about or speak to. So this camera lens is you, and you're literally watching yourself speak. Or a lot of times I think about it like we can have a practice on listening to ourselves speak before we speak it. So we hear ourselves what we're going to say before we actually speak the words. And I've really learned this skill I work with people for a living now. It's really something that I've learned to control a conversation in, to the way that I will feel energetically always okay in, and I also know that it's being reciprocated by the other person. That way we don't speak too fast, we say something we really don't want to say because it might come from nervousness, or it might come from angst or even fear, right? But when we have these conversations, where do we want to speak from? You know, typically it's from the heart. It could be something that we just need to clear, an issue in our life that we need to say, or a deep, deep hurt that someone has caused us, and healing on both ends is gonna take place when we have this conversation because of the way the universe works, right? I am you and you are me. And the dissonance that you're feeling inside of yourself that is bringing you to the awareness of having this conversation is felt by the other person, whether that person is aware of it or not. There's a cord between you that is calling you out to take a look at whether that cord needs to be cut with you in a conversation by saying what you need to say, or it's a cord that can be strengthened through the communication that you're going to provide by clearing the air and clearing whatever needs to be cleared. Some of the hardest things I can talk about to people about because I've had the conversations, you know? Personal example, I cheated on my wife for 7 to 8 years of my life. And finally I cracked that egg, and that came out when I really saw myself for what I was doing. I was a hurt man, I was suffering, I was self-destructive, right? And when I came out about the truth inside of me, you know, everything changed. And then that wasn't even the hardest conversation, believe it or not. There was about a year's worth of conversations after that needed to happen between the two of us to fully come into the divine union that we found. And then on top of that, I had to have all these other conversations with family and friends and you know, and talking to people about it, because a lot of people were very aware of what was going on and the hurt that was being displaced in my life. And I just stood up in it one day and I just talked about it to everyone that I needed to talk about. And there's even some deep stuff that have happened in my life besides that I'm able to just talk about now to people when I know the conversation needs to happen. And it's so freeing, a shortcut in the ascension process, okay? A shortcut from living in our lower nature to our upper systems of where the enlightenment and the higher energies and the higher self is found, is transcending this guilt and the shame and the fear, and using communication as a tool to bring it up. Our throat chakra is so powerful, and when we speak our truth, it can rip all this gunk out and bring it to light in the world. That's exactly what happens. We draw this stuff out, and if we speak correctly from our heart, we turn it into something pure, and we give it back into the world from which it came, back into light for it to be transmitted. Because from where we're speaking from can transmute whatever it is that you're fearing, or you feel guilty, or you're shame, or you're sad, or you feel hurt from. Use the creative essence that's within you to transform that, and through communication, speaking in front of another person and really being honest and authentic and transparent with yourself, you are going to unleash stuff that is holding you down. So it all sounds good. It all sounds easy from you know, just hearing it. But then we go to think about it and we go to do it, and sometimes we can be like, no, I woke up today saying I was going to do it. No, shit. It's nighttime and I didn't do it. So I encourage you very much. You can practice. You can think about the things you want to. I'm going to take that back. You want to feel the things that you want to say. You don't want to think. The logical mind is going to keep you running for the hills every single time you want to go to speak to whoever and whatever it is that is on your mind. But the heart wants to express itself. And there's never any damage speaking from the heart. So you can wake up, you can practice and think about what you want to say to an extent. Don't overthink it. Okay? And then the second thing is, whoever it is, you tell them, I want to have a conversation with you that means a lot to me. And they're going to go, oh, okay. That immediately shifts them into saying, whoa, they want to have a conversation with me. And I bet they're going to understand what it's about. without even, like, some people are very unaware. They just don't feel things, or they might not be as aware as you, but they're going to be ready for the conversation. And then say, please, at this time, can I come see you and we're going to talk? Or, if the phone's the only way to do it, please, can I set a time up with you? There's something I would like to talk to you about. It means a lot to me to have this conversation. And tell them how much it means to you. Because then they're going to take it seriously. And when you connect with them in the call, remember to remove the agenda of will and to put anything on them. This space that you connect into people with, it's a space for you to express yourself, but it's also very important for that person to express themselves to you. So whatever you unfold about yourself, ask them if they would like to unfold that back to you. And depending on who you're speaking to, you may not feel reciprocation, and that's okay, but it is felt. And this is a skill that we have to learn, because in the modern world, we don't communicate. It's part of the problem. I went to war. I was part of I went to war. I saw the ultimate dualistic reality that is created from miscommunication, from fear and shame and guilt and all this stuff. And I'm telling you, it all comes down to the human being able to express themselves but not feeling judged and not feeling heat and not feeling any type of mental judgment coming from the person. But if you connect in the heart space and you speak your truth, your transparency, nothing to worry about. Nothing. There's nothing to worry about. Because it's actually a different energy speaking through you that needs to express itself. And when that energy comes through you, it's going to pull all this stuff out. It's going to come out, and you're going to have a void, and you can fill it with yourself and fill it with love, and you call in help, and you can ask to, what's next? Who else do I need to speak to? I went through a period of 2 years of my life where I was having conversations with people that I know that I needed to have. And sometimes I was talking to a brick wall. It's fine. It's okay. Some people would cry and stuff because they don't want to hear, But then almost every time my reality changes for the better. Or I get a text or a letter or somebody saying oh, that was really glad we had the conversation. But my relationship with life changes because I'm becoming authentic and I'm doing my best to be transparent. It's mainly about the relationship with life, in a way. That person's relationship, it's definitely gonna get better, but everything will change when this process is started. Okay? So you can practice. If it's a really hard conversation, you can practice with someone you trust. But really, it's just getting the courage up inside of you to sit down with the person. And don't do side to side. Sit down with the person, face to face, and speak whatever it is that you know that you want to say. I just hope this provides you with a little bit of guidance and a little bit of just encouragement and understanding, because I've been through it. I understand. I was sweating sometimes knowing the stuff that I had to say, because it was going to be hard for them to hear. Then they were going to be crying the whole time, and I was going to keep saying stuff, and then all of a sudden I would try to explain. It's not about explaining myself, but expressing to them what I have learned and why it happened. And and then our actions in life will change, because it will equal what we're saying if we speak from our truth. If we're just saying sorry or saying whatever just to try to get it off our chest, our actions won't reflect what we're speaking, and then actually that creates a whole other issue. You don't want to do that. I did that in the beginning too. That's heavy. I really don't recommend going down that road. I recommend just doing it right the first time by just speaking your truth, and there is no right or wrong. It's just our process as a human being, expressing ourselves to another human being, seeing ourselves as beings being human together, and moving on. So, I love each and every one of you. I was asked to make a little bit more about a subject that I posted on my Instagram, so here's a little bit of a longer video. Please ask me a comment, subscribe. I'm pushing my content out there, so I'd love it if you share it to someone that needs to hear this. I mean, if you guys could help me by putting this out there, I'd really appreciate it. Taking care of yourself is taking care of the world.